Hey guys, welcome to my little classroom setup. I've kind of jerry-rigged a document camera so that we can take your favorite thing, Cornell Notes. So it's my first time at this, so let's see if it works. This is going to be what will be kind of our final and last bit of notes for population interactions, and then we can move on to community interactions, which is super interesting. But go ahead and follow along with me here and make sure you finish and listen, because I'll probably add a few things. And then I'll definitely put these notes up as a PDF so you can copy them in your notebook or print out a copy of these Cornell Notes. Again, remember, we want to keep all of these things because next year at this time, half your SOL is going to be on all this life science stuff. So populations, first of all, what is it? I've already written that here. Population is a group of the same species living together and interacting together. So just a quick review of the interactions that occur within a population. Remember, this is more than one organism of the same species. A group of deer, call it a murder of crows, a group of bison living together, a troop of mountain gorillas living together. But those interactions are always based on those key needs. So what are those needs that all organisms have to survive? Well, you need water, for sure. You need food, shelter, and space. All things that allow organisms to really interact in different ways. What are those kind of interactions? Well, cooperation. That's just working together. That beehive that we learned about last week a bit, what are all those different components that make those bees so successful? I saw the coolest giant group of bees when I was walking in pony pasture. You could hear them super high up, probably about 100 feet up in a tree. I was dying to get up there and see them, but keep your eye out because right now they're really active. And then of course you've got competition, and this is what often will cause populations to decline. It's a struggle for the same resource. What do they struggle for? Well, sometimes they struggle to find mates, food, dominance. There's a great movie, if you can find it. If you are a member of PBS, you can watch it. I think you just have to log in. I'm still trying to figure out if I can upload it. Haven't found a full copy yet, but it's called The Gorilla King. It's all about that dominance, that social hierarchy. They compete for shelter, and they compete for territory sometimes. You think about wolves. And then just a couple other terms that we talk about in this unit, social hierarchy. I mentioned that with the mountain gorillas. They have this really interesting social hierarchy where there's only one dominant male. They call them the silverback. Elephants I love because it's a matriarchal society, so it's all the females are in charge. The men only come in and out to mate. So definition of social hierarchy is the established order in a population. So these are populations that really live and work together. You think the queen bee, the silverback gorilla. The reason for it is they really help maintain order and territories. And the last kind of fancy word in this unit is called Territorial Imperative. I like big words, and this is another one of them. Territorial Imperative is really just establishing a territory. And what is a territory? It's that area occupied and defended by an animal. So you typically think of wolves, foxes, some of these mammals, but our box turtle has a territory. He doesn't live in a population. He's solitary, but his territory is actually only 1 square mile. And if that's why you can't remove a box turtle from their area and try and take them somewhere else, because they'll keep coming back to that same little 1 mile area. Okay, go ahead and flip on the back for our next set of notes. really talking about more graphing, and this is what is also the vocab that you did on Monday. So next question is, what is population density? Well, population density is the number of individuals that live in a definite area. And how do you calculate that? Because you're not going to go out into, 50-acre forest and go around counting the number of deer. So what they'll do is they'll measure individuals usually in a given area, a square meter, square acre, and extrapolate from there. So population density is the number of individuals that live in a definite area. And the brain pop you did on Monday talks mostly about human population density. That's a whole different study altogether, but the same concepts apply. So population growth, we just have a couple more things to write about, but this is when we get into those important graphs and talk about carrying capacity and limiting factors. So what factors affect the size of a population? Well, births and deaths, how many die versus how many are born, that has a huge effect. And then immigration too, how many organisms are coming into an area and then how many are leaving. But what are the two types of growth? We'll just draw a quick graph. You've got exponential growth and then restricted growth. So what are the two kinds of population growth? So if I'm a bacteria, I have definitely have this type of growth, exponential growth. The rats that we're reading about in our rat book, which, by the way, if you want a copy of that, just message me. I might be able to maybe drop one off for you at your house. But I'm going to be putting PDFs up too. It is a super dramatic increase. It really doesn't level off. It just keeps growing and growing, and it's a very super rapid growth. To have this kind of growth, you've got to be a super simple organism like a bacteria where you just split, because all you are is a cell wall, some DNA, and a few ribosomes. That's why you can get sick from bacteria very quickly. But most of the organisms that you think about, including us, it's called the restricted growth. That's where you get that carrying capacity. So you grow, say you're a group of deer living in a forest. You're just tooling along. You've got plenty of all of those needs, food, water, shelter, space. But there gets to be a point where there's just too many of you guys, right? And you're gonna die and then grow again and then die and grow again. This particular line where you've kind of reached the max is called the carrying capacity. And it's going to differ for every type of species. It's going to differ for the size of the habitat. So the definition of the carrying capacity you already learned in our last PowerPoint. So hopefully you have that written somewhere. But remember, the more you write, the better you remember it. So let's write it one more time. Carrying capacity is the maximum number, I'm going to abbreviate here, of individuals of a species that an environment can support. And what causes you to limit that population growth and reach that carrying capacity? Well, that's those limiting factors. So last question, what can limit population growth? Well, those limiting factors. We also wrote this vocabulary word. Write it one more time so you remember. It's anything that restricts the number of individuals in a population. So what are some limiting factors in a population? Well, you know, it's your classic, everything you need, your food, your water, your shelter. But you know, it can also be disease that sweeps through a population. Honeybees, we talked about those last week. Honeybees, they think it might be a fungus. They're not exactly sure what's causing the decline in the honeybees. A lot of evidence points to that, to a fungus that gets passed around, causing huge population demise in them. We have a lot of trees around here that have had imported blights, chestnuts, elms, etc. Also predation though, right? And we'll talk about that kind of in our next unit about predator-prey relationships. But what I want you to do with Cornell Notes, the whole reason they're good, and we often don't have time for this in class, but now you do, is this summary down here. Once you've taken the notes, looked over them, try in your own words to write the summary. And I'd like you to send that back to me. I'll put a Google Doc up of the summaries so we can just kind of add on, put your name next to it, and then you can look at everybody else's summaries too. Okay, so here are our final notes on LS7 before we move on to population. So keep an eye out Friday. I'm going to give you guys probably a quick quiz, some other activities to do, and then we're going to move on to keep talking more about rats and finish rats. Okay, well, I know this was kind of long, but hopefully it was worth it, and I will talk to you all hopefully soon. I want to try on Zoom this week. Okay, bye.